I'm the CEO and co-founder of Cerebri. Let me take you through a very quick introduction of what Cerebri is and show you a live example. At Cerebri, we are trying to change how adaptive learning has traditionally been done. Instead of trying to fit static question banks to students' learning journeys, we create questions on the fly. So this means we are not dependent on any question banks, and the learning journeys can be hyper personalized. So whenever a student comes to a topic, they always get a different question because there's no question bank, and as the student practices, gives right or wrong answers, the questions adapt. It's almost like a virtual teacher sitting with the student, helping them solve problems, and if students get stuck, the engine generates a step-by-step solution, provides hints, directs practice sessions, provides scaffolded step-by-step help, if necessary, shows concept videos and so on, and slowly takes the student to mastery. This means that every student has a completely different learning path. For example, the 95th percentile student on Cerebri only needs 8 problems to complete an exercise, while the 5th percentile student needs 136. Let me take an example of geometry and show you how Cerebri works in action. Okay, so this is the student interface. Again, very simple to use. The student goes to the exercise they have been assigned. Now, if you see the screen, the question that you see is unique for that student. This question would not appear for any other student in the student's class or school, which means that the student cannot plagiarize. They can only proceed if they have the requisite mastery. So, okay, I can enter the answer, and again, you will notice that because we are generating questions and solving them in real time, the student does not need to just enter an MCQ or fill in the blanks, as is the case with other platforms. The student can actually write complete expressions. Okay, so the answer is 30. My answer is correct, but the engine shows us a step-by-step solution in case the student wants to refer to it. And as the student gives correct answers, the difficulty level will increase. Since we are not dependent on a question bank, we can align to any curriculum. In fact, in the past 3 months, we have done over 13 different curriculums because we don't have to tag questions to curriculums. We only have to tag the concepts and skills. Okay, so now the question became harder. You can see that it removed the figure from the previous question. It generated a real world scenario. Now let's say the student is struggling with this question. So if I enter a wrong answer, so my answer is wrong. Now this is the first level of intervention where the engine will generate a complete step-by-step solution, and you can see how detailed the solution is because it is being generated by the AI. If a human teacher were to present the same solution, they would likely skip some steps, but the AI is unbiased. If the student clicks on next question, now the engine wants to assess whether the step-by-step solution was enough to move the student across or not. So we generate yet another question, exactly same configuration, same difficulty level, but different expressions to see if the student has understood the solution or not. Let's say the student has not understood, so I'll give a wrong answer again. Okay, so it again shows us the step-by-step solution, but now if I click on next question, think back to your school years. When the examiner checks your answer sheet, they don't just look at the final answer, they actually look at the steps, because a good teacher would want to see why you are making the mistake. And this is exactly what Cerebri does. This is only possible because we are generating questions on the fly. We are not dependent on static question banks. No question bank would be big enough to generate unique questions and then break them down. So now it's asking us to do the question step by step. The first step of that question was to translate the real world scenario into a figure. Okay, so I'll just randomly choose option A. Okay, my answer was wrong. So now the engine has got further information that perhaps this is the problem. Maybe I'm not able to translate real world scenarios into elevation and depression figures. So now the engine would of course show me the step-by-step solution, but now it will start to provide me more practice. And in this question you would see that instead of numbers, it changed it to variables. For example, the height is given in terms of h, y and capital H. This is so that the student doesn't memorize, and all of this happens automatically on the fly. Let's say I randomly choose option A again. Okay, my answer was wrong again. So this is where the level of intervention will increase further. Now the engine will not just show us the step-by-step solution, it will actually show us a concept video. After the student has watched the video, the student will get yet another opportunity to see whether they have understood the concept and skill required or not. So it will present them another question based on the video. Let's say the student gives a wrong answer again. I accidentally gave the right answer. So now we go to step 2. Let's say we start to give wrong answers for this step. Okay, my answer was incorrect, so it shows me the step-by-step solution. Now it takes me to step 2. Let's say my answer is incorrect again. Okay, so after a few times of incorrect answers, it will show us the concept video as it happened before for step 2. Again, it generated another question based on the concept video to see whether we understood the video or not. And all of these questions are different, of course, since they are being generated on the fly. Okay, finally, if we keep on making mistakes, then at some point the engine will recommend that we ask the teacher for help. This happens in 3 to 4% of the cases. And as a teacher, when you go to the class, you immediately see where the class stands based on your last lesson. And again, because we are not tied to a static question bank, or and it is very flexible to adapt to a teacher's lesson plan, we can align it such that the teacher is able to give a homework after every class. So schools replace the textbook, all the homework, assessments with Cerebri, and as soon as the teacher comes to the class, they will see that, okay, out of 42 students in the class, 13 students are stuck at 4 different learning objectives. So as a teacher, you can click on the learning objective where the student is stuck. You would see the list of students that are stuck, and it will generate another new question which encompasses these students' misconception. So as a teacher, you can walk through this question, and if one question is not enough, you can click it again. It will generate a different question. You can of course go into the details. So for example, if you see the need help icon, these are the students which need a teacher's help. So you can, unlike Khan Academy or a static question answer system, you can see a longitudinal view of the student's misconception. You don't have to rely on one wrong or right attempt. You can see what the question was, what the student's answer was for the misconception where the student is struggling, what the second question was, third question was, etc. This is impossible to do if there was a static question bank, which is why Cerebri exists. If you and on Cerebri, the number of wrong attempts is roughly 40% of all attempts. So for example, if I go to another student, you would see that this each row represents a session where the student did the homework. There are 31 out of 65 wrong attempts. This means that this student was struggling. The engine provided interventions. It would have gone into breakdown mode. The student would have given wrong answers, but eventually the student understood enough to cross the easy level. And if you look at the hard level, there are only 6 wrong attempts out of 29 attempts. So this means that the student is improving. Without Cerebri, this student would have carried these misconceptions into the next classes, because a textbook or a static workbook would never provide enough practice, and then eventually they would have lost their interest in the subject. Similarly, for assessments, Cerebri can generate completely different assessments for every student, and yet still having the same level of difficulty. And because we know what each question entails, we can, based on the assessment, we can give students a personalized corrective practice module. This is impossible to do manually, because it would take a teacher time to check each and every assessment submission to be able to assign personalized homework. Thank you so much for listening to me.